KC Joyner, ESPN.com, senior NFL insider, right now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline where, Casey, man, where do we even begin? Offense, defense, they all played a role. But let's start with Carson Wentz. What did you see from him last night? I thought he left some plays out on the field.
Thought he did too. If you're looking even at vertical passes, first 3 quarters of the game, he throws 12 vertical passes. That's where he throws the ball 11 or more yards downfield. 12 vertical passes, complete 7 for 102 yards, only 8.5 yards per attempt of vertical passes. He had that one play where he didn't see, I think it was Van Der Esch over in the middle of the field. I think he thought Van Der Esch had been on a shorter route, and then he threw it right to him. He's just made a lot of mistakes, but no verticality to the offense through 3 quarters, and you're making mistakes like that. He's one of the problems.
I agree. I said at the start of the show, everybody wants to blame Schwartz, the defense, and we'll get into them. To me, if the quarterback makes a couple of plays, they win that game.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I've watched the play 4 or 5 times. I still can't figure out why he threw the ball right, why he didn't see where that linebacker was. He's right there. They're running high-low over the linebacker level. They've got one person crossing from right to left, and the other one crossing. It's probably a drag, dig, post DDP combination, and you think the linebacker's going to react to it, but the linebacker doesn't react, and he just sits there. You've got to notice that. I think he anticipated the linebacker had moved without seeing it, and that's a problem. You can't make those mistakes.
He looked like he was throwing high. His accuracy was not there. He had a couple of nice throws, but I thought overall a couple high throws, a couple wide throws just didn't seem to be crisp last night.
No, definitely not. Even if you're talking and short passes, they saved him on short passes because what he did there was he did a lot better on short passes than he did on vertical passes. Again, you're only averaging 8.5 yards per attempt. He had 6.3 yards on short passes. It's good. It's acceptable. But you're only 11 out of 16. You're not even at 70%. And in today's NFL, you probably have to be at higher than 70% on the short passes. Not all on him, but a few of them were. And like I said, he's not I don't think he's the biggest issue on the team, but he's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's the biggest problem. I thought last night, though, that in the first half to score 3 points is at home off a bye. You got to point the finger at the quarterback. A lot of people here going after the defensive coordinator and the defense. We will get to that here, but I want to get your take on the Eagles' offense. And last night, 16 targets to Ertz. He had 14 catches. He had a great game, but they're not spreading the ball. That was their bread and butter last year, man.
It was, and Ertz after 3 quarters only. Actually, on vertical passes. Again, we're talking vertical passes. Ertz 4 or 5 of the first 3 quarters, and I'm throwing the first 3 quarters out there because the end of the game where they're throwing a lot of those passes, it kind of skewed the numbers. And the first 3 quarters really was how the team was playing for obviously most of the contest. But you throw 12 passes vertically, and 5 of them are to Ertz. I like Ertz. He's really good. He's one of the top 10 ends in the league. You can't have him as the centerpiece of your offense. No team in the NFL, even Gronk when he was at his prime, you don't want your tight end being the primary vertical target. You may throw in half your vertical passes to your tight end. If you do, it means that you're not trusting your receivers. They're not getting open, something of that nature, because there's not enough that he can do in the vertical game where he should be the centerpiece.
They ran the ball very infrequently last night. 7 carries, 42 yards for Adams, and not much else for anybody else. Are they leaving a part of the offense off the table by not running the ball more?
Good blocking rate. That's my metric that measures how often you're giving ball carriers quality run blocking. 57% good blocking rate last night. That's really good. And you only run the ball 14 times, though. I was kind of flabbergasted by it because even when you're down 6-0, there are a lot of teams, when you get down to the scoreboard at all, they'll, I don't want to say give up on the running game, but sometimes you'll see them go pass heavy. I didn't expect the Eagles to do that because they've got – I know the run blocking has been as good of late, but that's not who they are. They don't want to be one-dimensional. But I think when they got down to the scoreboard at all, they said we're just going to get away from this. I don't think they also trusted their matchup, even though they got 57% good blocking rate. I think they figured they were doing that some with play calling. I got the impression they didn't think they could win those up-front matchups on a more consistent basis.
Well, I thought their line got whipped last night for. Their defensive line, I should say, on that side of the ball. That side of the ball was surprised because Elliott ran all over them. But you're saying their offensive line actually was giving them holes. They just were on the ball.
I think they chose. I think they picked their spots because you can get if you're running draw plays against nickel coverages and such, you're going to probably get good blocking because the defense isn't in a situation to stop you. There are a few plays like that. I think that's what Philadelphia did. They basically said we're going to run the ball in certain situations and we're going to run the ball in certain ways, but we're not just going to go head to head. And if you don't do that, and the Eagles have had a history of having good run blocking, it makes me think they didn't think they could win the matchup. We talked about that in the end of last week that maybe they might not be able to.
Defense, they gave up a ton on the ground. We talk about it every Friday. They're one of the better teams against the run. What happened to their run defense last night?
Their run defense is having the same problems that it's had in the past. We've talked about how oftentimes the Eagles will win more than their share of plays. They'll have a very strong, good blocking rate, but they give up a lot of yards when they allow good blocking. And for the first few weeks of the season, in week 1, they allowed 6.7 yards per attempt in good blocking plays, 7 yards in week 2, 7 yards in week 3. They're doing pretty solid. Since week 6, 18.7, week 7, 13.1, last night, 11.2. You cannot give up a double-digit good blocking yards per attempt on a consistent and win games. And last night, LSL gained a 46% good blocking rate, which is the second highest in Philadelphia's allowed all year. So it's one of those situations where they gave up too much good blocking, and when the team got good blocking, they couldn't keep the runs down to a reasonable amount.
Now it's 13-13 after 3. The defense, kind of settled in on that third quarter. They're down, they're down 13-3 at the half. It's 13-13 now after 3. What happened in that fourth quarter? Is this, a lot of people going after Schwartz today, the way that he's calling very passively, doesn't blitz a whole heck of a lot. He keeps his corners pretty far off the ball. What happened in that fourth quarter?
Well, you've got banged up corners. You don't trust your corners and your safeties. Your safeties aren't coming out to make it to stop running plays. I'm going to sit people back too. If I don't think my corners can cover, and I'm not sure my safeties can stop the run if I get them too close to the box, or they're going to get out of position on passing plays. Yeah, I'm going to do that too. I understand why he did what he did. You just can't leave yourself, as Al Davis said, you can't leave yourself without cornerbacks. And the Eagles got to a point last night where they had people out there who they really couldn't trust. So you don't like to see that sort of thing happen, but they needed to do that because the personnel just dictated the situation.
Yeah, the kid Sullivan, who many people never even heard of, he's in for Darby. Darby's now out for the year. Mills was out. So it was obvious that he did not trust those guys in coverage, right?
No, he couldn't trust them. And Sullivan made a terrible play on one of the run defense play too, where he had an angle to stop a play from, I think it was a 35-yard run, I believe it was, by Elliott. He just came up and it was just terrible. He whiffed on it entirely, and he took a bad angle. I thought he didn't want contact. I thought, okay, you don't want to hit this guy, and if you don't want to hit this guy, you shouldn't be out there. But if you're Schwartz going to, if you're not going to hit the guy, maybe you can, instead of making it a 35-yard run, maybe we can sit you back 20 yards off the ball, and you can make it a 20-yard run instead. I get why he did it, because there's reasons not to trust these guys. They didn't look like they're very good.
KC Joyner, ESPN.com senior NFL insider here on the Sports Bash. What'd you think of the way they used Tate last night? He was on the field 18 plays from scrimmage.
Why? I mean, you bring this guy in, and he's supposed to be he's supposed to be the solution to what you've got going on offense. He's supposed to slot into a spot where you let everybody else do that. He gets 4 targets, 2 receptions, 19 yards. He's a dink and dunk receiver, but if you're a dink and dunk receiver, you want to run a smoke route where you just sit in the line of scrimmage and you take one step back and then they throw it to you and you go upfield, or you want to do bubble screens, which he did. Had more of them in the past couple of years than any receiver in the league. Fine, you don't need to know the playbook to do those plays. You can easily do them. It's hey, we're going to run a smoke route to you. Great, he does it and you go. And if you can't get more than 4 targets his way, even in the short pass routes, it says, I don't know if he's just not prepared or if they don't trust him yet, because I don't understand why you're giving Jordan Matthews almost as many targets as you are Golden Tate at this point.
Yep. Realization, 9 games in, 4-5, just an average team, right?
I placed him 18th in my power rankings for ESPN.com. They'll post it tomorrow. Our group collection of rankings. When they asked me what my rankings were, I had him 18th, and I don't think I could have put him much lower than that, but I sure couldn't put him much higher.
They'll play the Saints coming up. Casey and I will break down that game on Friday's show right here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. The way the secondary looks, you could see record numbers for Drew Brees.
Well, the Bengals just fired their defensive coordinator. What happened? If I'm Jim Schwartz, I'm like,
yikes.
I'm hoping to keep him to 35 because if you get to 50, it might cost you your job. 35, they might just say it was a bad day.
All right, let's take a look at what else happened around the league. Week number 10, we got a game tonight. It's an awful game. It's New York taking on San Francisco. What's the quality of this game that should make us want to tune in?
Well, Saquon Barkley, you can see him run the ball. That's pretty good. And San Francisco's they've got some very good blocking. Plus, I want to see the Nick Bolin show part 2. See if he can do what he did last week, and see if this guy's the real deal. If he is, hey, it's could be quarterback controversy in San Francisco.
Very interesting to see Mullins. You're right. After coming off a big game last week. All right, let's see what happened around the league and see what it means moving forward. We've got Detroit losing at Chicago. Trubisky, 355. Do they have something here? Is this Chicago team a playoff team?
I remember when Trubisky got drafted, I wrote an article for ESPN about how Trubisky, you could have just put him as the number 1 overall pick, had all kinds of grief for it. The problem was that he hadn't had enough time in college to showcase his skills. He only had a short amount of, had a short career there, so the talent was there. Chicago's got good play calling. They got good talent around him, and I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback sooner rather than later, and Chicago is the real deal right now.
They win 34-22. New Orleans all over Cincinnati, 51-14. Breeze, big day. Ingram, big day. Michael Thomas having a huge season, and Cincinnati starting to fall apart.
Cincinnati is starting to, their defense has been bad for weeks now. They're not just fired the defensive coordinator because of this game. They've been terrible. Run defense, pass rush, you can pick your metrics, you can pick your advanced metrics. They've been awful. So Cincinnati is going to be, I think they're going to collapse down the stretch. And New Orleans, and you're supposed to be able to win games like this, but to do what they did, that's the sign of a great team, is winning games like this in this manner, and that they did that. So right now they're easily Super Bowl favorite.
Which is interesting because Terrell Austin, he was a hot head coaching candidate a couple of years ago. Now he's out of a job. Atlanta goes to Cleveland. Falcons have been playing well. Cleveland with a big win at home, 28-16. Nick Chubb with a big day.
Nick Chubb with a big day. I wrote something about the Browns today in ESPN Fantasy Blocking Review of Week 10. As good as his day was, it was because he hit some big breakaway plays. It wasn't because they gave him consistent blocking, so still don't trust the Browns blocking. They're dangerous enough, though, to where if they catch you on the right day, they can win some of these games like this. In Atlanta, their pass rush is just atrocious, and I think they've got still a lot of defensive problems, and if their offense doesn't get going, they're going to keep losing games like this.
All right, New England. Maybe, I don't want to, what is it, the upset of the week, the surprise of the week? New England goes to Tennessee. We talked about it Friday. Tennessee's pretty good at home, but 24 points better than New England is at home. Big day for the Tennessee defense.
Yeah, big day for Tennessee defense, and New England's offense now is too much dink and dunk offense. They're wishing they hadn't let Brandon Cooks go. I don't care if they say they don't. And you look at the performance on tape, their vertical game, a stretch vertical game, is completely missing without him, and they're having to do too much dink and dunk stuff, and it makes their offense more predictable and easier to stop. And plus, when you're playing that kind of game, you're playing Tennessee's type of game, and that allows them, Tennessee, to play the type of game it did.
Jacksonville falls to 3-6. The Eagles and Jags, all sorts of issues. The Colts win again. And this is a Colts team now that's starting to get it together. Frank Reich. A lot of people talking about the Eagles are lacking something. Could it be Frank Reich?
It could be, and the Colts blocking, too. They've been the best blocking team the past 5 weeks of the season. There's a video going around on Twitter about one of their offensive linemen when he's peeling around the corner. The Colts posted on their Twitter feed where the offensive lineman is just screaming. It's just fantastic, and their offensive line is playing like they're screaming and just destroying defensive teams. And I think the Colts can be dangerous down the stretch because if you can dominate the offensive line like they have been the last 6 weeks, you're going to win a lot of games.
Arizona at Kansas City. They kept it close. Arizona, Mahomes, 249. Big day for David Johnson, Tyreek Hill. Too much Chiefs. They get to 9-1.
It's impressive that Arizona did what they did. It's impressive that their team could have fallen apart after what had happened over the past few weeks, but they're still playing tough. In Kansas City, though, teams are starting to figure out how to slow that offense down some. Good news for them is their defense is playing a lot better, but I don't think the formula that they used earlier in the year is what they're going to be able to use down the stretch. We're going to find out a lot more about them if this new formula is going to work as well.
Matt Barkley, sign him up, 41 points. The Jets, all sorts of problems, people calling for the coach's job in the NYC.
I don't understand. They didn't look like they wanted to be there, and if a team the old saying in the NFL: if a team quits on its coach, you can't get over that. Once they throw in the towel on your coach, if they throw in the towel and quit on you, you've got to call it quits. So they're not firing their coach. I'm surprised because that looked like a team. The Jets did just look like a team that had quit on their coach. And if he's not fired now, he's going to get fired at the end of the year, I would think.
Washington, big road win. They hold 2 now in the NFC East. Tampa Bay, all sorts of problems. What's happening with the play calling down there? They scored. How do you throw for over 400 and only score 3 points?
It's incredible that there's a variety of reasons for it. There are plays that they missed. Their kicker, they cut their kicker today, Catanzaro, because he missed a couple field goals, and that's part of it. But when they get down to the red zone, their vertical passing game, when you're trying to stretch the defense like they are, that doesn't work when you get in that compacted area. A lot of times you'll see offenses do that, and they're not running the ball well enough to do other things. So I think they need to be able to run the ball better and work on their intermediate stuff, because if they don't, they're going to have some more red zone problems down the stretch.
The Chargers win on the road. Oakland's awful. They score 6. You're looking at a Chargers team now. You got to think about them as a possible, Super Bowl out of the AFC. You got New England, you got Kansas City, and I guess you got to throw Pittsburgh and the Chargers in that conversation now.
Chargers are a full team now. They can throw the ball vertical. They can run the ball exceptionally well. Their run blocking in past years was terrible, and Gordon's just good enough to get over it and still be productive. Now their blocking has been very good. The defense is playing strong. That's a team that's definitely, when they get to the playoffs, I mean, this is a team that can win road games in the playoffs. So they're going to be a dangerous club, and Oakland is just, I can't believe how atrocious they are.
Really bad. Miami, they fall short. Green Bay finally gets lightens up in the schedule. They had 2, tough games in a row, but Green Bay 31-12. Aaron Jones with a big day.
Wrote about him also in the ESPN Plus fantasy section article, where the Packers' run blocking has been very good, and he's got fantastic good blocking yards per attempt. He's 9.7 yards per attempt or higher in 5 of his 7 games this year. It's just, that's a crazy pace. So they're starting to bell cow him, finally figuring out they need to give him all the carries and not try and split up with Williams. So I think his future is bright, and I think Green Bay's future is bright too.
My fantasy team thanks them. Yes, Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, both on my squads. All right, Seattle at the Rams. Hard-fought game. I mean, Seattle went in there. They gave them their best shot toe-to-toe. They come up a little short, but, 36 points again. The Rams just keep scoring.
They do. Concerned about what they're going to do without Cooper Kupp. He had that non-contact injury, and now he's out for the year. And Reynolds, the guy who replaced him, Josh Reynolds, he's not the kind of an impact player. Maybe they can figure out how to make him that down the stretch or get more production out of him. But now that offense, they have the same guys. It's Woods, it's Cooks, it's Kupp, it's Gurley. That's who their offense is. And now they've just lost a quarter of that. And so I think we're going to see about the Rams, because they need to protect that defense. That defense still has some problems.
And then you had the Sunday night game, Dallas, Philadelphia, which we talked a lot about. And let's talk about Dallas real quick, because did we see something from them that makes you feel like this team? Garrett was under fire, Dak was under fire. Did we see something from them that makes us think like they're ready to turn the corner? Their run blocking, or their blocking has been superb. Their front seven has been superb. When you start adding those elements together, if you can control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, you got to have running back like they do. If they can get Cooper to be more of an impact player than he's been, if they can start doing that, they're not very far from offense from being a team that can have a big impact in the league. But right now they're still probably just a step short. But if they can figure it out the next couple of weeks, this is a team you could be scared for the playoffs too. That's our look at week number 10 in the NFL. And now here we are, 10 weeks in. I think we start to have a pretty good picture of what's happening. But you look around, I think you got, in the NFC, Saints, Rams. Who's number 3 on the NFC side? Tough call. Probably Washington, maybe. I mean, I did my power rankings. It was I do them for the league. It was Saints, it was the Rams, it was the Chiefs, and it was the Steelers for my top 4. So after those teams, though, I don't know the Vikings. They've been playing really well of late, and I don't know. It's probably about it. The Vikings be the next team, maybe the Panthers, but they're kind of up and down. So it's a thin NFC at the top. Yeah, think about this, Casey. When we entered the year, to say that Washington, Chicago might be 2 playoff teams.
Would not have expected that. Maybe I could see Washington just begin the state of the NFC if Philadelphia took a step back. I know how the NFC East has been up and down, but Chicago to be what they are. But Trubisky, I mean, again, what he was last year is not what he is now. And Matt Nagy, I don't want to say coach of the year, but that's to get that kind of production out of Trubisky in year 2. He should be getting some coach of the year credentials.
And I think that South is interesting. Houston, Tennessee, and the Colts were all impressive. Well, Houston was off, but they've been impressive for 6 in a row. But Tennessee and the Colts, they've kept within striking distance. I think that South turns into an interesting stretch.
Could be. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, if you're only going to get because the Chargers are going to be one of the wild card teams, or the Chiefs, or probably the Chargers. So you're going to have those 3 teams there. One of them is going to be out of the playoffs, and they could be, if they keep playing like they are, 3 of the hottest teams in the season at the end of the 3 of the hottest teams in the AFC at the end of the season, and one could be out.
That's our look at week number 10. KC Joyner will be back on Friday's show as we take a look at Eagles Saints and all the Week 11 action right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. All right, my friend, we'll talk then.
Appreciate it.